Thank you so much. I am Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, and I'm really joined by the true heroes and sheroes of this issue that has really personified the reluctancy to look at an important issue in the city and the state and on the federal government. We need to be very clear. The state and federal government has turned their backs on NYCHA. Yes. And it has been left up to the city to really carry the burden that's here. But as tenants, we're saying when you turn the heat off, we're going to turn the heat up. Yes. To make sure that thousands of NYCHA residents' voices are heard, because it's on the ground level where you get things done. And when you look at some of the time that many of these tenants has been part of the NYCHA system, have really held public housing, has been the cornerstone of low income and middle income New Yorkers. It has been NYCHA in the public housing system that has made it possible. And so the message must be clear. You're not going to freeze us out and gentrify us out. We're here to stay. We were here when others were waking up to alarm clocks and they were waking up to gunshots. They stayed here in this community and made it great. So we're clear that around Gowanus and around Red Hook and around Fort Greene and around Clinton Hill, the property values have gone through the roof. And part of the plan may be to think that if we make conditions so deplorable that the tenants of NYCHA is going to flee. Well, you got another thing coming. We are going nowhere, and we're going to demand the services that we deserve. And I want to thank some of the advocates that are here. So important. Charlene Nimmons. I've known Charlene for so long. The things she's doing over at Wyckoff Gardens. Miss Margaret, Brishbon, resident since 1963. 1963, Tracy Pinkard, third generation here, 3 generations. And when they come to speak, I want them to tell you the length of time that they have been in NYCHA and have saw families come and raised here. We also want to thank Gowanus Residents Association, Fury, and Gowanus Neighborhood Coalition for Justice. This term speaks for itself. City Council is holding hearings tomorrow. Yes. We're going to reach out to the chair of the City Council to partner with us and say, let's not only do hearings in the warmth and sterilized environment of the City Hall Council chamber, let's take the hearings in NYCHA. Let's go to the community centers. Right. Let's go inside the lobbies, in the hallways, and in the boiler rooms. Yeah. Let's be creative in how we do these hearings so we can really draw attention to what is taking place in NYCHA. So they're holding hearings tomorrow. We're asking all NYCHA residents all across the city to come out and allow your voices to be heard. Don't be daunted or afraid or intimidated. Let's make sure that the voices are heard loud and clear. The cold weather has pushed the NYCHA heating system to the brinks, and in many cases over the brinks. And we're seeing the failure of the infrastructure has reached its breaking point and beyond. We want to make sure that we continue to focus on this as the weather, it seems to get colder and colder as the years go on. 19 developments facing heating complaints, potentially impacting 40,000 New Yorkers. My office alone has been made aware of these 19 developments, and they include Gowanus, Atlantic Terminal, Browns, Bushwick, Coney Island, Farragut Houses, Glenwood, Gravesend, Hope Gardens, Independent, Ingersoll, Whitman, Red Hook East, Red Hook West, Rutland Towers. The list goes on, and it should not go on and on and on. Too many tenants do not have the basic service that they deserve, and we believe they should have. New York City, unfortunately, has been the sole entity that has carried this burden. We have been abandoned by Albany, and we have been abandoned by Washington, D.C. This is not only a Trump problem, we have been abandoned for many years under the previous administrations and administrations before that, and we need to be clear on that. The mayor has acknowledged the fact that we need to do more, and his a designation of $200 million in long-term funding for heating upgrades is just the rounding error that is needed. We are dealing with a $25 billion, an enormous amount that Albany and Washington must assist and kick in. As the city, we are forced to be far more creative, relook at and re-examine next-gen NYCHA and see what entities are important to do so. And we need to be creative in finding ways to deal with some of the bureaucracy that's in the way. NYCHA must look at the bureaucracy involved in their procurement process. They must expedite how to move further and faster in these particular issues. Staff, let me have a napkin or tissue, please. Today we are calling on NYCHA, the funding of public housing, as well as the state, to do the following. 1, address the low-hanging fruit, to reinvest recent and future entity savings into additional capital projects. These are here. These are low-hanging fruits. These are things we can do now. Foster additional public and private partnership. Let's go out and do things with public. Thank you very much. Let's go out and do things with our public and private partners and bring them into this. We're all in this together. Let's get more participation. Expedite contracting. I have one, thank you. Expedite contracting and project implementation. One important entity that we're looking at is in the prime example is, according to the Room to Breathe report, July 2017 report by the Citizen Budget Commission, NYCHA saved $48 million in utility costs from 2013 to 2016 due to lower natural gas cost expenditures, which was made possible because of the conversion from oil to natural gas. Unfortunately, that $48 million did not go back into continuing the conversions. We're saying let's have a designated lockbox that money is put into the conversion process so we can continue these savings. And that's the way to do it the right way. Smart policies lead to smart directions and smart ways of solving this problem. We also are calling on Albany to declare the emergency declaration to expedite resources and funding to make crucial improvements to NYCHA infrastructure. And lastly, design build. Design build allows one contractor to design and build. The governor is allowing design build on the projects he thinks are important on the state level, yet he's not allowing design build on those projects that are important to people who are dealing in a state of disrepair. Unacceptable. If it's good for the governor and his projects, it's good for NYCHA residents in the projects that are dealing with here. Bring design build here and make sure we make it happen now. And so it is imperative that we also look at public and private partnership. How many prominent New Yorkers came from NYCHA? Whoopi, Jay-Z, rappers, actors. Look at the list of people who started out in NYCHA. NYCHA gave them their start. We're reaching out to those prominent New Yorkers and say, don't forget the buildings that you were raised in. Let's come and be partners with. We're reaching out to them and asking us to join us in this fight. And so the goal is to create an environment where we create a partnership with our tenant. It is important that we do a publicly accessible NYCHA capital project dashboard. What does that do? That takes the guesswork out of the movement of projects. By having that dashboard, NYCHA residents can see where are they on the list to get their projects done. How far away are we? Where's the development of it? If I can track a package that is delivered from Russia to America on an app, then we darn sure could have an app to show how fast a project needs to be done in NYCHA, and the residents can be aware of that information. It's about tracking. It's about information.
That's correct.
So it's clear that there has been an energy in NYCHA, and an energy in the city, in the state, and on the federal government that tenants don't matter. It's a clear statement that when we place our attention, we can get the results. But we're saying now, the city, the state, and the federal government must inspect what these tenants expect, or it's all suspect. And we're not going for that. It is about making sure the rent-paying residents of NYCHA receive the same services that any tenant would receive. We will not tolerate residents in private co-ops and luxury housings and apartments to go through what NYCHA residents are going through. They are paying rent like every other tenant, and they deserve the same protection. City, you're the landlord. You have the obligation and responsibility to lead by example, and we're saying now is the time to get it done. I want to thank these NYCHA residents who are out here bearing the cold weather. The irony of it that many of them have to wear the same items they're wearing now, they have to wear inside their homes to deal with the cold climate that they're dealing with. Peeling paint, lead paint, ceilings falling. Unacceptable. And we must put the resources into NYCHA to do so. And let me say this to those who are so busy pointing the finger, saying that the chair needs to step down or not. Come up with your solutions. Stop pointing the finger of blame. We want to point the finger of progress to make sure that these results are done. The tenants can care less about your opinions. They're more concerned about getting the results that we're looking for. Let's move forward with NYCHA. So we want to hear from some of the tenants, residents. We want to hear from Charlene. Charlene, you're here. Where's Charlene? Okay. Charlene from Wyckoff Gardens, and then Miss Margaret, and then Tracy Pinkard, a third generation NYCHA.
Clearly, the Housing Authority doesn't feel that it's an obligation for them to come out and speak to us. But according to our HUD regulations 964.135, you are to speak with residents, resident associations with regard to all aspects of modernization, any issues that go on, you're supposed to be communicating. Clearly, our voice is not being heard. Constantly, we talk to the Housing Authority, we talk to our city officials. I want to thank Borough President Eric Adams for coming out here and standing with us. Too many times it takes a media blitz in order for us to get hearings.
That's right.
And we are fed up because we constantly communicate with everybody all the time. And we want to thank the media for making sure that our voices are getting out there. I asked personally to meet with the Housing Authority regarding energy in September and prior to, but we're going to talk about September. They never came back to the table, even though they said they were going to connect us to the energy department so that we can talk about public and private partnerships and how we can work together to help make sure that our families are going to be warm. Not only are we looking for conversion, but we need to make sure that our properties are weatherized. Our windows need to be insulated.
That's right.
Our buildings need to be wrapped so that when you do fix the system and we do get the heat, we can keep the heat inside.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right. We don't want the heat to go out the window.
Exactly.
And now resident since 1963, Ms. Margaret Brishbon.
When I was born, where's she at?
It's Margaret.
Yay.
Thank you, Charlene.
Good morning.
Wow.
My name is Margaret Brishbon, and I've been living here since 1963, and so much have changed, but now it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
For 2.5 months, I was without gas.
Wow.
And they just told me I don't need a new stove, and they took them like 2 months before they did a new gas line and the C line, and I just had a hot plate to cook on. I'm a diabetic, and things is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's so hard. And then with the heat, oh God, no heat. And I had to wear clothes like I'm going outside
Yes.
to be in the apartment, and that's not good.
Yes.
You know, I thank God for all the people that looked up, especially
We thank God for you.
Because I've been through it. And
Hold on, sister.
at
Let her
the end of the
finish,
day-
sister. Let her finish. I got you. Let her finish. Though. We're gonna let you. You gotta say, okay?
and
Let
I'm a
her
little
finish.
nervous because I'm
That's
not
all right.
just speaking.
We're gonna make them
And-
nervous.
Yes,
That's right.
And you know, it's hard. It's very hard. You know, you can't. I don't know.
Yes. Yes.
Oh God.
Yes.
That's all right. Take
Yes.
your time.
Yes. Them 2 weekends.
Let her
We
finish.
don't-
Let her
It's just I can't finish.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. You, we
You're
got you. We got you. We got
Your
you.
back.
I
That's
got
right.
you.
That's right.
Yeah, no, this is very clear. You know, these are not strangers. These are our grandmothers, our aunties, our uncles, our mothers, our sisters. You know, these are not strangers. These are not people that live on some distant planet somewhere that we have forgotten. No, these are our family members who have been the staple and the mainstay of this entire city. These are our family members, and I think that you said it so profoundly. You know, and we want to thank you for that, because we need to realize that for our family members to be living like this is unacceptable.
That's right.
And so we're going to now have Miss Tracy Pinkard, third generation here.
Yeah.
Is Tracy here?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you all for coming out, and especially thank you, Mr. Adams, for joining us.
Thank you.
As a longtime resident here at Gowanus Houses, you know, we stand here all connected, because whether you live in Gowanus, Red Hook, Wyckoff, Warren, Farragut, any of the public housing, you are experiencing the same thing.
That's right.
What we find is that a lot of times that we are a group of people who are always left out of the conversations, and,
That's
and,
right.
and I'm hearing this often, more than I ever could have imagined. As a part of the Residents Association and with other community organizations such as FAC and Fury, we have collectively put our voices together, and we've created the Gowanus Coalition for Justice. And as a result of that, we're talking about how do we make sure that we're not left from those tables.
That's right.
That
That's
as
right.
we look at rezoning and we look at gentrification and all of these things that are coming around us, that while we may not have a lot in terms of being able to stop it, we certainly want to make sure that we're a part of those discussions,
That's
that we
right.
are asking for the things that we deserve. Public safety is not something that's new, because now you coming in and you just bought a multi-million-dollar home. We are residents of
right. That's
NYCHA
right.
certainly
That's right.
deserve, and we expect
right.
those same type of treatments here as well. So we want to just thank you all for taking the time to come out and you know, stand with us, share our stories. This is a battle that we continue to have. I've been hearing a lot around public housing is not for sale, and it certainly isn't for sale. We want to say it as we have been here. Again, I've been here 3 generations, and I'm so thankful for public housing, because I wouldn't be able to afford to stay in New York, let alone be able to stand here in Brooklyn. So as people look at Brooklyn as the new thing that's happening, we want to say, as one of our residents here at Gowanus who says, we were happening before other people discovered us.
That's
So
right. That's
thank
right.
you again for coming out, and certainly, Nikki, please help us to continue this fight. As the weather gets warmer, as you all can see, there's a lot of work that's being done because of Sandy and all other disrepairs that has happened with NYCHA. We want to make sure that stays on, that our concern stays on the table and is not forgotten. Thank you.
That's right.
So true. Thank you. And we have one last speaker resident, Mr. Henry. You right here. Right
Okay,
here.
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Let me just say this. I've been here since Gowanus opened up in 1948. I'm 71 years old. There's a contract. The tenants have a contract. The contract is that we take care of our apartment. We do what we're supposed to do. We expect housing to honor their contract. Their contract is to take care of the heating, the grounds. The problem that I've seen is that there's been a great deterioration. People have been informed about the heating beforehand. You don't wait till the 11th hour to fix things, to take care of things. If you want to get on top of a situation before it happens, and that has not been the case. So people have put things aside, out of sight, out of mind. And because of that, the infrastructure has been allowed to deteriorate, and that has never needed to happen. And there are little things that can be implemented by all the housing developments, such as, if you have a problem, you look into it. If you have boiler problems, you do not wait until January. You do not wait until December. That is something you do in July when it's hot. And so those of us who have been suffering without heat, without water, and I live in the building where the housing authority, 215 Hoy Street, they're 211. The irony is they've got nice doors downstairs on the first floor, 1A, 1B. That's where the manager is. Okay, that's nice. But what about the people upstairs? What about the people in all the other buildings? What about the needs of the tenants? That is all we're saying. Fulfill your contract.
That's right.
We
right.
are fulfilling
Thank you.
ours.
right.
That is all. We're not asking any more, any less. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's right.
Just two people that you wanted, the two people.
Stephen Henry,
So I'm gonna say-
Henry,
Me, him.
and I live in 215 Hoyt Street to be exact. And the rent office is 211 Hoyt Street, right underneath me.
You're
STPHEN.
gonna walk to the left, to the right. You're gonna walk to the right.
Okay.
Right to the word.
We want to take a moment to introduce one of our citywide council of presidents, Ms. Lillie Marshall from Red Hook.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. We all have the same problem. We all fighting. I'm also DCOP. I'm the vice chair of DCOP. That means I am citywide and the 5 boroughs wide. We all have the same problem. I have a new manager and a new superintendent. I am about to give them the chance. We are in Red Hook. Give them a chance to do what they have to do first before I blast on them.
Right.
You know, we are in a mess. So we are, right now, only thing we can do is hope for the best. Hopefully he's gonna fight for us to make sure we get the best.
That's right.
I'm not gonna kill them right now. What I would like for them to do also while they're doing our Sandy recovery, instead of putting all the money on top of the buildings, I want them to put some of it inside where our apartments are bad.
Yes, yes.
Right.
It's rough, but in this situation with the president that we have to fight. Have
Thank
a good
you.
day.
Thank you. Thank you. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
And we're going to introduce Karen Blondel from Red Hook.
Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm putting out a distress call today. SOS. NYCHA is in distress. This is going on around the city. I'm an organizer with Turning the Tide, which is an environmental justice group that educates residents on environmental issues, including the Gowanus Canal. I'm also a part of the Gowanus Neighborhood Coalition for Justice. That group was put together. It's not just public housing residents, it's businesses, it's homeowners, it's everybody who cares about the Gowanus area. What we decided to do was to advocate for each other. And in that advocacy, we are growing. And we invite you to join the Gowanus Neighborhood Coalition for Justice. In that way, we can get to the table and help to decide what we need in our community. Now, in regards to NYCHA, NYCHA has a lot of backlog on repairs, but it will not make sense to put money on repairing roofs and flood-proofing basements if the rises throughout the building are corroded and if we have water penetration from apartment to apartment. When you look at the physical needs assessment, plumbing is not even on there. Plumbing and water penetration is a huge issue. It creates mold. It starts to peel the paint so that lead is exposed. We have to take care of these buildings from top to bottom, and we need resident oversight. I'm a resident. I understand engineering. If you teach us what the building is about and what we are to look for, which we already know, we can get this done together. This takes a community effort, not just the politicians, the residents, the contractors. There has to be some kind of fluency in the way that they do the repairs. It's not acceptable for residents to wait 8 and 9 months to get a bathroom repaired and then only to have it breached again by the apartment above it. We're asking for value engineering. We're asking for value capture of our tax dollars. Yes, we pay taxes in New York City Housing Authority. And to your surprise, I know a lot of you think, why would people stay in public housing for 10, 20, 30, 40 years? We have nowhere to go. Public housing is what we came to when we migrated from the south of North America to the north of North America. And I'm speaking for myself, okay? We just migrated here. We're being displaced in numbers. There's infill going on, gentrification. I can't even get 2 chickens in my neighborhood for under $18. Stop pricing us out of the communities that we are born in and that we love and that we want to share in the resiliency processes with you in. And please take this message out and put an SOS out. We need repairs. We need the budget to reflect the repairs that are needed for public housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ed Tyre, the president. Ed Tyre, the president of Gowanus Houses.
Gowanus, everybody say Gowanus. Good morning. Thank you everybody for coming here. I'm gonna try to be brief in what I'm saying, but a lot of people already said things I wanted to say. But I think one of the things that's important that we need to go back on is we need to be able to have people reach out to us as a association, because that's what we're here for the residents. And one of the things that we also need to do is that make sure that the residents know that we're here for them. At one time, Housing Authority had it when new residents came in, they let them know there was a residents association. That stopped. So people don't even know why we're here. They don't know the advocates for them. Another thing that we have that I feel needs to be changed as well too, they don't allow us to get information on homebound residents. So homebound residents who have problems, they don't even know there's people here for them. That has to be changed as well too. And there's another thing that needs to be changed as well too, is that, you know, like, we talk about working together. Well, we're not enemies to each other. We work on 2 different sides of the fence, but it's for the same purpose. And if we work with the same purpose, everybody benefits anyway. So if we lock people out because they're here to represent the people who live in the development, there's something wrong with that. You know, because if you fear us, then there's something you not be doing right. Because we're here as advocates. You understand our role. You understand our titles. And the residents don't, because a lot of them don't know that we do exist. And at some point, we have to find a way where we go back to some of the old stuff where we are introduced to the residents, new residents that come in. So when they do come in, they know there's somebody that advocates for them. So again, I thank you for your time. Okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it was really important for us to allow the tenants' voices to be heard. And that's why we wanted to take our time and allow each one of them to say what they had to say. They're the advocates. They're on the ground. They're where the rubber meets the road, and we are not going to solve this problem merely by being in our office space. We need to come out here. And so I'm putting out an offer to any of you tenants who will allow me to stay with you one evening and get a full gist of NYCHA. I'm open for it. You know, we got to just keep drawing attention to what's taking place. I'll bring my vegan dinner, because you know I'm a forks over knives guy. Now I only eat vegan. Second, we're going to be doing a series of hearings. If we can't get the city council to come out with us, we're going to come out and we're going to do a tour of our developments. We have to keep this at the front. The media needs to be commended for keeping this on the front pages over and over again. We need to do our share. We need to keep this on the front and constantly talk about this to show that we're serious. And the most important thing we can do is to have a dashboard. That would allow us to do an analysis of all of our NYCHA developments, and housing and see where we are. Because if we keep spot checking without knowing what's the problem and how do we analyze that problem to make sure that we can see and say the problem is being resolved. We don't want the guessing game. This cannot be done in the dark. It must be done in the light. So if the heat is not on, we're going to keep the heat on and make sure we get the results we had. We'll open the floor to any questions at this time. Lisa?
Eric, in terms of who's responsible for this, from what we've been able to tell for the last month reporting on this, NYCHA has no idea how many people, which apartments, which developments are without heat. Doesn't the person at the top have to bear some responsibility? She's been there for 4 years. Shouldn't they have a way now of knowing who has heat and who doesn't have heat?
And I think that, you know, and there has been so much call on shoulder, so much attack on shoulder. We have to be very careful that when we start looking at shoulder, the problems of NYCHA didn't start with shoulder. It didn't start with this mayor. It didn't start last year. And so
People are freezing, excuse me, but people are freezing this winter.
We were
People
freezing
got
before
sick
this winter.
and
We were freezing before this winter. This is the point that we're trying to make.
There you go.
It didn't just start. And the fact that it's in the media, the fact that it's in the media in the way that it is now, that's why we say we appreciate what you're doing. Because we have been voicing this for years. You have leaders who have transitioned out and new have come in. And you have old that are still standing and supporting. We have to end the disrespect that goes on from our government and our authority. I like what, I almost said Bishop. Hallelujah. Borough President Adams said, the landlord. My daughter, she gonna blow me, who are you talking about me? Said to me when she was a young child, Mommy, if they're saying that the landlord is bad, then isn't that, it was Mayor Bloomberg at the time. Doesn't that mean the mayor of the city is a bad landlord? Any mayor that sits in that seat, you became our landlord. Take up your responsibility and do the right thing for public housing residents.
And so I think that's so important because, see, if we get just merely in the blame game, then one person leaves the seat, another person comes. I'm not pointing the finger against any particular person. I want to point the finger towards results. The best way to get results is to do an analysis of the problem and start checking off the results to see the progress. Right now, we cannot analyze the progress because no one has wrapped their hand around an analysis of the problem. And so any lawmaker, legislator that's merely calling for the removal of someone without them producing their plan, then all they're doing is just shooting at a lot of rhetoric. Where's the plan? We have a plan in this borough, and we want a plan to get us out of this mess, not to stay in the mess of blaming who's wrong and who's right. Let's get the heat and let's get the problems resolved.
Can you just quickly explain your idea for the dashboard, what that means?
A dashboard is so important. It's similar to a dashboard you have in your car. If you in your car drive and you look at the dashboard, you know if you're out of oil, if you're out of gas, if the battery is not charging, the lights are not operating. That gives you an analysis by looking to see what's wrong. Technology permits us to have a dashboard created for these tenants. They make a call to get a mold problem, a leak problem, a toilet problem. They should be able to look and see, where am I on the queue that this is going to be resolved. This coordinates and allows the repair persons to have their tenants home when they're there, so they don't have to stay home for a week waiting for someone to come. And it allows the city on the whole to do an analysis of how many toilets do we have out, how many lead problems we have out. Right now, this paper guess game does not allow the technology. We're putting hundreds of millions of dollars in technology for our police officers to fight crime. Where you put your money is where you put your priorities, and we can do the same with NYCHA. We have not treated this as a first-class housing stock in a first-class city, and that is why we're pushing to get this technology done. The only way we're going to solve this problem is to properly analyze and monitor the movement towards results. We have not done that in the past, and we need to do it now.
This idea you
saying they should contribute that to the boiler replacements, or are you saying they should put that into other efficiency energy upgrades to save more money? Where do you want that money to go?
A combination. I think the combination is it. But first thing we should do is the saving is coming from the conversion, going from oil, diesel to natural gas. So that's where the savings is coming from. Create a lock box. Well, those savings go back to either the boiler repairs conversion, or if it goes back to ensure energy efficiency, to make sure the windows are done, to make sure that the heat is not being removed. Whatever it takes, it should go back to that entity.
Okay, and that's 48 million on top of the 200 that the mayor announced, right? So do you have a sense of how much more that would cover, or how much it could speed it up?
No, we don't. They could give it. NYCHA should be able to give us those numbers. They should tell us exactly how much it is. It's a long way from the billions that we need, but if we continue to siphon money off of or out of the energy efficiencies in the heating process, then we're not doing the right job.
Okay, and then finally, you're saying they should put it in a lockbox, but do they still have this money? Have they spent some of it, or do they
I'm
still
sorry,
just have
I
it
laughed.
lying around to
Well, each time, according to the citizen budget report, each time we do a conversion, we're saving money. So if we don't have the money because we squandered it away, as we move towards the future, let's create a lock box where that money can be placed in a lock box and is used for energy efficiency and the heating aspects of night.
I can take you to my mom's house. We can go do that.
There's some repairs that's needed, anything?
No, I think we're done. Yes, come on straight.